Morning, Razor.
Fabian Schär, we've seen is back in training. Is he going to be in your squad for the Wolves game?
Yeah, we hope so. Yeah, he's trained well this week, so pleased to see him back.
Are there any fresh injury concerns?
We've got a couple of knocks from the Manchester City game. We hope nothing too serious.
Bruno's had some trouble with his ankle over recent months. Has that all cleared up now, or is it a situation that you and the player are having to manage?
No, I think he's fine. He's not. I'm just trying to rack my brains. I don't think he's missed any training from that ankle. I think it was sore initially against Manchester United, but he was back training, no problem. I think the initial one, I can't remember who it was against. I think that kept him out of some training. But touch wood, I don't see a problem or a long-term problem for him with it.
When you look at the next week and the two matches that you've got, how crucial are they going to be to what you're trying to achieve in the remainder of the season?
Yeah, two big games. I think two big games because of where they're situated. We've got the international break afterwards. We want to go into that break in a really good moment. We want to feel good going into that. We're also running out of games. You know, the games are going to go so quickly. So with 14 left, that's going to disappear. We need points. So we're determined to try and end this run of games that we've had in a confident way.
Looking at Wolves, your opponents at home on Sunday, they've climbed the table and their results seem to have improved, certainly since the new manager came in. How much more difficult of a match do you think this will be than if you played them a few months ago?
Yeah, I think new manager's had a really big impact on their team. Watched them closely this week. I think they've got some very good players. I felt Wolves had some very good players. The first game we played them, it was a tight game. I thought we were okay in the game. Maxi scored a spectacular goal late. Then we hit the bar, I think, just afterwards. So it could have been one that we won. But I thought they're very good players, technical midfield, good front players. So I think managed to come in, giving them confidence, and now they look like they're back to the Wolves that we've seen in previous seasons.
The players you brought on at Manchester City made an impact and a bit of a difference for you, and I'm sure they'll be desperate to start games. But when results haven't been what you would like them to be, how much more difficult is it to talk to those players who are coming on and are on the fringes of the starting 11? Because I imagine it's an easier conversation to have when you explain why they're not playing when the team is winning and everything's going well.
Yeah, they've all got their own individual situations though, so I don't think it's necessarily quite as clear as that. Joe Willock's had a number of slight niggles, I'd say, that's prevented him from training, and I think the Premier League is physically so difficult for players if you're not at your optimum level. For me, I want to give players the best chance to perform at their best level, so I want players to enter the pitch in a really, really good physical condition, having done the training we feel they need. So Joe's not been in that situation. Alex, to the same degree, has been in a similar boat. And Maxi has as well. It's been a stop-start season for him. So all three players, part of our game plan in the last game was for those guys to come on and try and win us the game. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but I thought they all made a positive impact in the team.
And another player, finally, that I wanted to ask you about, Jacob Murphy, someone who has featured in every Premier League match this season, but he's only started 5 of them. He's clearly an important player for you and a valued member of the squad, but what would you say his role within the team is? Because you're using him, but it tends to be for impact off the bench.
Yeah, I think he's done very well off the bench this year, and that's not to say that's his sole role. I think he's done really well when he's come on in the last few games, actually, and I think that's not lost on me. I analyse the games, as you know, to a forensic degree, so I see everything that I feel I need to see. So he's pushing to start, and there's no doubting his qualities.
Thank you.
Thanks, Razor. Keith?
Eddie, your captain, the club captain, Jamal Lascelles, came in and played well against Manchester City last week. He's had to be very patient all season long. I think you've gone on record a few times to say how good he has been behind the scenes in the dressing room. How important a part could he play between now and the end of the season on the pitch?
Yeah, very important. I think Jamal has benefited from his training. He's trained really, really well at a very high level. You don't come in and perform like he did in that type of game unless you're absolutely focused on your training day to day. So I'd say he's led by example on the training ground. I had no doubt he'd come in and do well because of what I've seen and he performed to a really high level, and I'm really pleased for him because he deserved that moment. He's also looked to improve as he's not played regularly every aspect of his game, and so I think he's in a really good place.
I suppose it could have been easy for some players to have sort of put their head down a little bit about the situation, but his professionalism has been really good to see. And how good is that for you as a manager to know that you've got people like that they can bring it, especially with him being captain as well?
Yeah, I think added responsibility on Jamal as captain to set the example day to day, and even more powerful for him if he can deliver that while not in the team, because I think that sets a standard then. No one else can sulk or have a bad day because you've got your captain there who's been in that moment for the majority of the season but is acted in the best way. As I said, he's used the opportunity away from the game to develop his techniques, his defending. He's worked on all areas of his game, so he hasn't wasted that time, which is what I'd say to every player that's not in the team, is focus on actually making yourself a better player, so then when you do get your chance back into the team, you're going to perform at a much higher level.
A lot of media attention has gone the way of Bruno Guimaraes this week, I suppose, as ever. He won his award last week, played well against Manchester City. Story this week that the club have opened talks with him over a contract extension. Are there any advances with that?
Not to my knowledge, Keith. Been preparing for the game, so yeah, I'm not sure on that one.
How important is he to the overall project here at Newcastle?
Yeah, I'd say he's a very important piece. You know, when you look at our team, I think he's a unique player. You're not going to find, I've said many times, too many players like him. The way he receives the ball, his technical delivery under pressure, his eye for a creative pass. So yeah, he's very important, and he's at a really good age. He's only going to get better, in my opinion, and also his attitude is top class. So he's got a great mix of qualities, and certainly my desire is to see him stay here for a long time.
Thanks, Eddie. Cheers.
Thank you.
Morning, Eddie. When you've got, the results going as they are, the goals starting to drive, but you're seeing the players play well every single week, what do you say to them on a daily basis?
Well, I think, I'm a big believer in focusing on our training, because I believe what you'll see in training is what you'll see in the game. So this week I've been really, really pleased. I think it's been a really, really good week not in terms of weather, but in terms of our training delivery has been excellent. The intensity to our training has been really, really good. So I think you're right. I'm seeing that delivery day to day. I'm seeing the effort and commitment needed to win matches at a weekend. I do feel we've been unlucky. I'm not a great believer in luck, because I do believe you have to create that yourself, but I do believe we've been in an unlucky period where things have gone against us. And that's where a lot of the things behind the scenes are tested, when you're not winning. So what's your culture of your group like? What's the culture around the training ground like? And it's a good test of that. And I think so far the players have come up with the right answers as far as I can see behind the scenes.
I remember when Sean Longstaff was going through a period where he was getting in the right areas but missing the chances. Alan Shearer reached out to him and said, just make sure you're getting still in those right places. Amongst all the stats in the game in 2023, can football be that simple currently for Newcastle United?
Yeah, I think it can. I do think it's we as coaches, we always complicate the game because you're looking to add layers and try and improve the team, but ultimately it is quite a simple game, and we need to stick to the basics and the fundamentals and your core principles in moments where you're not getting the results you want. In the knowledge that it will turn. You can't keep performing well, in my opinion, and not getting your rewards for that. Football has a way of paying you back, but it'll only pay you back if you're strong in the moments where you need to be.
I suppose as well, you look at the last 3 games in particular, coming against Liverpool, Manchester United, Manchester City as well. How important is the bigger picture here for Newcastle United?
Yeah, they're very difficult games. It's a strange one. I've been slightly torn on it because the 3 games that we've played, we've performed, as we've said, really, really well in a lot of aspects of our play has been very strong. Nick Pope last week goes to Manchester City, has 1 save to make late in the game. Apart from that, didn't really have too much to do. Of course, conceded 2 goals, but didn't have many saves to make. I think that's a real positive sign for us. At the other end, we did have presentable opportunities that we didn't take. So, for me, that's the hardest league game we'll have, and we were very strong in the game. We have to keep that confidence from those aspects of our play, and of course look to improve the areas that we're not delivering well in.
The club came out this week and have kind of asked supporters their opinion on potential safe standing at St James's Park. What's your opinion on it as an entity in football?
Yeah, I think I'm for safe standing. when I first started to go and watch games as a very, very young lad. I think that's what I did, remembering back, and it seemed then strange to then sit and watch a game. So I'm all for it as long as it's done in a really safe way and the supporters enjoy the experience.
Just a one on Wolves, Julian Lopetegui, obviously, we were speaking there, Rez has mentioned what a good job he's done. Why has he done such a good job, do you believe?
I think he's getting the best out of his players. I think he's utilising the assets that he has, and he has some good players, as I say, technical players that can deliver a good product for him. I've always felt Wolves' midfield is technical and good suppliers to the front players. But I think they've got some unique individuals. They've obviously had the link with the foreign players who've come in and done really well for them. So I think from our perspective, we don't underestimate them. And as I said, from the first game we had against them this season, it was a tight match.
And just finally, it's typical tropical March weather, as you alluded to before. Has that disrupted the preparation at all, given the fact that we've had a healthy covering of snow over the last 24 hours?
No, it's been fine. We've not suffered. We might suffer a little bit today in terms of areas that we have to work in, but we will be training.
Thanks.
Thanks, Andy. Nisha?
Hi Eddie.
Hi.
At the start of the season, I think many fans, pundits would have thought top four was a bridge too far, but then you go on a really good run, you stay there for such a large part of the season, and now you're in this difficult moment whilst other teams are coming good. Is there still a belief within you and your players that top four is a realistic possibility?
There's a belief that we can win again, and we need to very quickly to fulfil that aim. I've never sat here and talked us up in terms of targets, top four, but I have talked us up in terms of what I believe we can achieve and the quality we have in our group, and I'm not going to change now. Through every season there are difficult moments, and there are patches where you, for some reason, don't win the games maybe you should, and sometimes you win games you shouldn't. We're in that moment, the first one I discussed, and that's the time I believe that you have to be really strong mentally and know it will change.
It's been a long time since you've had to deal with a run of defeats. Have you? I know you've talked about your meticulous notes on training sessions and looking back over what you've done previously. Have you drawn on that experience in these last couple of weeks?
I think you draw on your experience all the time in different ways. So I think this has been slightly different to maybe previous experiences that I've had, because cup games in the middle of two really tough league games, the general performances have been very strong. It's not like you're scratching around going, oof, we're in a really dark place here. Now, so my experiences will be that you have to look at the dynamic of the team and how the team's generally performing, knowing that the results will follow that pattern generally.
Callum Wilson spoke on his podcast saying he takes full responsibility for his form at the moment. He's very experienced, you've known him a long time. What are you doing to try and kind of get the best out of him going forward?
Well, I'm lucky in the respect that I know Callum, as you say, so well, so I think you can draw on that relationship. You can have conversations that maybe are slightly different maybe with players that I don't know so well, so I think that's a beneficial thing. I think the fact that Callum's taken full ownership of his performances, I think is a very, very good thing as well, and I'd say the same to any player, good moment, bad moment. That's why I said good players that have gone on unbelievable runs of form, Miggy, Joelinton, the player ultimately takes responsibility for that, not the coach, because they're the ones delivering it, and it's the same the other way. So Callum is vastly experienced, top player. He has a huge part to play in our season.
Thank you.
Thanks, broadcasters. We'll also do Sunday's embargo till 10:30 Saturday evening. We'll start with Damien Davies.
Eddie, given where your team has come from, was a difficult run always inevitable?
I didn't want that to be the case, and I think if you say yes, then I'm not sure that's a great answer for me to give. But now we're sort of in it. I think every team will go through. Tell me a team that hasn't. But I think the key thing is how quickly you can try and come out of that moment, and how quickly you can, and how you conduct yourself in it as well, and how you play through it. And I've got to say the players have been excellent. So it's not a case, as I say, that the performances have been poor, and then you're looking at poor results on the back of that. So I've done it very difficult after the Manchester City game. I was really proud of the effort, the commitment, the delivery of the game plan, just the finest details were missing.
And just on that, I mean, are you, as an individual, able to park that and not take it home, or is it something that consumes you?
You'd have to ask other people. They're probably a better judge than me. No, I'd say I try not to. I try not to walk through the door and take my emotions from my day with me, but I'm human, so I'm sure there is an element of that that's following me. But I try not to impart that onto anyone else, especially if it's negative, of course.
Lee?
Morning, Eddie. Just on your selection process, you mentioned earlier in the season it comes from what happens in training. And I've seen a few fans saying that there's like loyalty coming into it, but I'm guessing that's something you'd knock back straight away.
Yeah, I think the difficulty for everyone connected with a football team selection is that no one watches training except the staff and the players. So you're always picking your team based on what you see, and not on loyalty. I think that's a very dangerous thing, because where does that stop? So if you have one bad game, and you've played well for 2 years, does that mean you get a second game or a third game or a fourth game? And where do you draw the line? So for me, you draw the line on what you see, and then you pick a team. This is how I do it, based on the best chance of getting a positive result. It's not on the best chance of getting a positive result from the previous game, it's from today and tomorrow. So that's always how I've done it, and I feel I can be ruthless when I need to be. I can be loyal when I need to be, because I think that's a good quality as well. But so it's getting the balance right on the next opponent and trying to win the match.
And with Callum Wilson, he missed the chance last week at Man City, but it's fair to say he hasn't had too many chances presented to him like that, so it'd be unfair if he loses his place based on getting into positions, because the service hasn't been as good as it was at the start of the season.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. The last 3 games, I think for any player in our team, you're not going to get a huge amount of chances in these 3 games, but the ones that you do come along, can you take them? I think it's that kind of thought process. And certainly Callum at Manchester City always never going to get, well, you never know, but it's the type of game where you might get one. Manchester United in the cup final might be the same type of game, and then there's other games where you might have 6 or 7 shots. So certainly there's no finger pointing internally at any one player. As I say, I back Callum 100%. I know his qualities, both as a person and as a player, and he's got a huge part to play in our future, and he will score goals again, no doubt.
And you mentioned the Man City game. Just take it back to stoppage time, when Man City were like trying to win loads of corners. I mean, looking back at it the second time, it just looked a little bit unsavoury the way Man City were going on in that position. What was your take on it?
My take on it was we just wanted the ball. So it's a frustrating thing for us, because we wanted the ball, because we wanted to try and score. I've had both hats on. I've had hats where you're winning with seconds to go and you're delaying and keeping the ball in the corner. So I've got no issue with what they did at all. But it obviously meant we couldn't get the ball where we wanted it to. So you have to compliment that on good play.
And just looking at the league form finally, only Man City and Liverpool have beaten you this season. That must be something you can take a lot of confidence from going into the last 14 games. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, if you said that to us at the start of the season, you'd definitely have taken that. I mean, that's a huge positive for us. Now we have 14 games left, and we need to try and maximise every single one of those games. And it's still in our hands. We're still capable of doing anything we want to do from this point of the season, which, again, you go reverse back, you'd have taken that at the start of the season.
Okay. Miles?
When you spoke about Joe Willock, you touched on Alexander Isak and why maybe he hasn't started as many games. Where is he this week in his fitness, and how's he been looking ahead of?
Yeah, I'd say Alex is in a good place. He's the most consistently he's trained since he's been with us. So I'm not 100% sure on how many weeks that is, but certainly that rhythm and that feeling is good. I'm just trying to think back to the game. There was a week where he trained very, very well. He was excellent in everything that he did. And I think he got concussion the week after, and that meant that, again, that delayed his, return to training for 7 days. And I think now he's building back to those levels that he was at. So, no, very pleased with him, and yeah, he's an outstanding player, outstanding talent.
Harrison Ashby, we've not seen him yet.
No, Harrison picked up a very small hamstring problem, so he hasn't trained with the group for a few weeks.
Okay, Ian.
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
From the outside, a lot of people will be looking at your raw results and saying Newcastle in a slump. Because you're very much a performance-driven manager, would you disagree with that label? Or what would you describe the run as?
What would I describe it as? That's a difficult run in terms of results, but certainly not in terms of performances. So that I'm aware I'm going to be judged by results and not judged by performances. That's the wrong way to look at it. So I'm not sat here going, everything's great, we're delighted with what we're doing. No, not that kind of manager either. I don't think I've got rose-tinted glasses on. I see everything the wrong way. We need to win games. We need to score goals. We need to defend better. But that's a continuous journey you're on, regardless of what moment you're in. I back the players. I back our methods. As I have done all season.
No concern.
There's always concern when you're not winning. So I'm not sat there going, well, just roll out the same product and the same training. No. Look to try and improve, take full responsibility for what we're delivering and try and improve it.
Excellent. Craig?
More than that, just going back to Alexander Isak, so obviously there's mitigating factors in terms of the fitness and the injuries, the concussion, but does the point come where you say we've paid £60 million for this guy, we're going to play you, where we signed you as, which I presume is as a striker, you see what he's got or what he hasn't got? What point does that come where you just put him in and say, right, let's go, let's see what you're all about? Because at the minute it's been start, sub, number 10, and I know there are mitigating factors for that, but when does that point come?
Alex will be the decider of that, really, with how he performs. Did very well when he came on the pitch last week, trained very well this week. On his position, I don't see his position as an issue. We'll utilise him in various roles, as we will all our players. We'll change things in game. He's a top talent that can play in different roles. He's not a one-dimensional player. So with Jolinton this season, we've moved and changed his role because he can do that. He's a versatile player. Alex is similar. So he's not defined just by one position, but whatever position he plays, he has to play well.
And how is he himself in conversations with you? Is he sitting saying, I want to start as a number 9, as a striker, that's what I'm here for? What shape do those conversations take?
He wants to play like every player, I'm sure. I've not really had a huge, long conversation about his, about his game time at this moment in time. It's been about keeping him fit early on after his serious injury that he had, building his confidence levels, his training levels to the level that he can play at. I feel he's there. Is he 100% ready to play 90 minutes on a consistent basis? Probably not, but he will get there. We will build him to that level. I've been delighted with his attitude. We've talked a lot about his performances, general things that we're looking to improve and develop in his game, and I think he's in a good place.
Just very lastly from me, you mentioned earlier there was a couple of knocks earlier. Can you expand?
No, not really. Not right now.
Chris?
Morning, Eddie. You mentioned earlier the tactical substitutions you made last weekend. I mean, you made a triple sub just after the hour mark. You haven't really had the luxury of being able to do that because of maybe injuries and the like. How much of a difference can that make going forward if you've got more of a fit squad and can change things later on?
Yeah, certainly was a great thing to have in our armoury last week. So every game's different. Our plan last week was to attack the game. I think everyone could see that watched the match right from the off. Commit fully, physically, ask our players to empty and to make changes on about the hour mark, bring 3 players on that we feel could really swing the game, hopefully in our direction. So utilising that bench and utilising it early and having that plan, I thought was beneficial both ways for the players that are starting the game to give their all and the players come on to make that impact. And to fully back the squad. And that's what I want to do in the future. And I believe with the bench we had, it was certainly exciting.
And you also mentioned how there's a big gap with the international break. There's been reports in the Middle East that you're going to go back to Dubai. Are you doing that during the international break?
Yeah, I think that's the plan. I think we'll have quite a few players away, so I think we'll have quite a small group. But that is the plan as we currently stand.
Okay, Martin?
I'm sorry, but just to ask a couple then. Pep Guardiola gave you good praise after the game last week and said this is a team that's playing well and this is a team that will fight for the title in a couple of years. Does that resonate with you? And does that please you when you hear somebody like Pep Guardiola say that about how you're playing?
it's very nice of Pep, but it doesn't change anything that I think we have to decide our fate. You know, no comments will do that. I take very little notice of comments made by other managers, because there's sometimes an angle from them, as there would be from me to another team. So no, I tend to let my own brain sort of decide where we are.
And on this run, when you look at in terms of the team seems to be still playing pretty well, or expected goals and high intensity runs, are those stats still bearing out that the team is performing how you want it without scoring goals?
Yeah, pretty much. As I say, statistics are just one way of measuring your team. I'm not fixated by them. I'm not right. That's black and white. I just don't think the game's that way. But they are sometimes a useful tool, whether you're playing well or badly, to just give you hope, or to actually say, no, there's a problem here, but it's not coming out in the results. So it, as always with these things, it works both ways.
And just lastly, going back to Craig's point about Alexander Isak, how frustrating has this been for him? Because what we're talking about, the 8th month he's been here, has it been a see to discuss how difficult it's been, and how much more is there still to come from him?
No, we haven't. He's in a good frame of mind. He's positive, and I think he's positive because he's saying that he's a great club. I think he's in a great moment now to hopefully push on and really show all his qualities, which when you're behind the scenes and you're seeing it every day, let me tell you, he's an outstanding talent, and we're absolutely delighted he's here, and we know that we've got a great player for the future.
Jordan? Just on Joe Linton, how difficult has it been to prepare for the Wolves game with knowing that you won't have him available for the next couple of games?
Yeah, it's a big blow for us. Joe has been very consistent for us this year. In and out of possession, I think he's been very good. I think his game's gone on to another level. He's played various roles, as I said earlier. He's a versatile player. Great mentality, wants to win in every moment, wants to compete, training, games. Very consistent with his attitude. So he's going to be a big blow, a big miss.
Just how important is that? And now it's an opportunity for someone else to come in, because Joe Linton's been the mainstay, but say we give someone else a chance to stay back playing as well.
Yeah, always. I think it's a positive, because it's a positive position now for someone else to, as you say, grasp that shirt and to try and make sure they don't come out the team themselves.
Kieran?
Liverpool owner John Henry this week said that there should be further limits on spending in the Premier League to maintain the competition in the top flight. Do you think the established order are a little scared?
Well, that's out of the blue. Said it in a very nice way. As always, very politely put across. What do I think of that? Yeah, I didn't hear those comments, so that's a difficult one for me to give a full answer to. I wouldn't want to see any more restrictions on spending, because I feel, we have spent money, don't get me wrong. But future restrictions and would certainly deny our ability to improve as quickly as we want to.
Yeah, and you mentioned Bruno earlier. Is he kind of the template for you this summer, in that sort of profile?
Yeah, well, I'd love to say yes. That is the profile, of course, because Bruno's gone on to do brilliant things for the team, for the club, and we hope there's many more of those moments to come. So, of course, finding players like that are affordable, and all the other things that go into a transfer, it's not easy.